quarterfinals, which all the teams like to use. When we're talking about Oregon, Ian, we're talking about the dynamic playmaker in Dylan Freechild, the Callahan Award winner from last season.
Yeah, Dylan Freechild can really do it all. He's got speed, he's got throws, he's got intelligence to read his defenders. Definitely look for him to be pushing the pace on the offense for Oregon.
And if we have to talk, we're talking here about Carleton. This season been a tough one. Unfortunately, the accident claimed 3 lives: Paxton Harview, Michael Goodgame, and James Adams. Carleton is dedicating their season to them. It's good for the Ultimate community to see them playing here, winning games, and just moving on and fighting for their teammates and dedicating their season for them.
Absolutely, and their teammates are memorialized on the front of their jerseys, and they've really elevated their play here. They may have come in a bit underseeded when you consider the team's potential, but after a great performance yesterday, they've recalibrated their projections, and they're ready to put all the cards in and try and take this pool and give themselves a bye into the quarterfinals.
Yeah, Phil Bowen talking to them before the game, they woke up and they said they're 2-0. Why not go for it? They did have to survive a feisty Rutgers team out of the Metro East. They were up 13-9 in the game. Rutgers forced 14-14 double game point before Carleton was able to put it away. We'll have to see if that works out for them. Oregon, on the other side, comes in year after year as one of the favorites, but this year the talk has been subdued about them. They lost a lot of games in the regular season, and we're used to seeing a dominant Oregon team early. We haven't seen maybe their full potential yet.
Yeah, you got to wonder if the slight underdog mentality or rep coming in plays into their feisty nature. That's definitely something that they haven't particularly had to deal with in the last few years. So we'll see how it influences their mindset in this matchup.
Almost set to start. We have Carleton in white, featuring 3 Carleton logos for their 3 teammates who perished this regular season. Oregon in the gray on the right side, getting set to go on offense. And here we go, set to pull. And you can hear the intensity on the sidelines already. This one's for Pool D.
Of note, Carleton is missing Captain John Reynolds, who's injured, and star cutter Jesse Bolton broke his toe and will not be able to play for the rest of the tournament.
Wilson Moses. Matthews gaining notoriety here. A viral video going around of his 40-inch vertical. Looking forward to possibly seeing that today. Smith. Back for Campbell.
A lot of space for the Oregon handlers in front of the stack people to work with here.
The experience level on this Oregon team is high, especially of big playmakers. We've been seeing Dylan Freechild and Ian Campbell for years, been mainstays, and it's hard to believe that they're still around after all this time. Too far for Ian Campbell. Smith misses his mark. Carleton with a chance to open up this game with a break.
Not necessarily a trigger that Smith had to pull there. Just a tad too far for Campbell.
Carleton, known for their patient offense at times, really working at fundamental style. In cut, and Oregon gets it right back. Fruchter getting the job done. You can see Oregon's explosiveness right off the bat. Campbell. Looking deep for Freechild. Freechild in the back. Dylan Freechild gets this game started off with a goal.
Nice patience from Oregon on the turn. Swinging the disc a little bit until the proper lane opened for Freechild to attack. Nice block there by Fruchter to get it back. And we see Freechild here just maintaining position as he goes up.
Defender coming in a little bit late for Carleton. Lewis Cohen has the tough assignment drawn guarding the 2013 Callahan Award winner and Dylan Freechild. And Ian, when we talk about Dylan Freechild, his speed is great, but I think one of the things that sets him apart in this game is his agility and quickness. I think there's nobody really on par with him in this college.
Absolutely, yeah. One of the things he's known for is, he'll receive a dump and you think he's just gonna look to the next continuation, but he'll go at 60 miles an hour, catch that dump and throw it right back and take off. And he's thought about that and executed that before the defender has even had the chance to turn his hips and recalibrate.
Last year at Stanford, these two teams met. It was Julian Childs-Walker who had the tough assignment drawn. He now graduated. Carleton will have to look elsewhere. Here they come on offense. Caffrey centers to Lim. Vertical stack here for Carleton. Looking underneath right off the bat. Van Can. Olney. Some key injuries here for Carleton. Ian, Jesse Bolton is out with a broken toe from last game. One of Carleton's, if not Carleton's, best player.
He's got a lot of playmaking capability, able to come down with a lot of 50-50 balls. So Carleton's going to have to rely on their fundamentals and avoid getting themselves in those situations.
That's true. Van Can to the end zone for the score. Galen Ryan reels it in.
Ryan's a powerful cutter. Was a big part of Carleton's semifinals run last year, and I believe played with Machine this past club season.
Galen into the corner. We talked about fundamentals on that point. Carleton all fundamentals, and missing Bolton might be big. It might make them predictable, but still, Carleton year after year has played in this style. Teams know it's coming. It's very hard to stop it. Looking at our elemental keys to the game, Carleton with Jesse Bolton and John Reynolds out. Depth has to step up in this game. They also have to find a way to contain Dylan Freechild, and on that first point, Freechild went deep.
It's the same problem that Wisconsin had to deal with against Colorado. Pick your poison. You want them throwing the goals or catching them?
Oregon have to be aggressive on defense here to get Carleton uncomfortable with the dump swing and get him out of it, and be efficient on offense themselves. You saw that first possession. It took 2 times to score. Oregon known to have a happy trigger finger when it comes to throwing hammers or throwing 50-50 balls.
Absolutely. I watched their pool play game against UNC Wilmington yesterday, and I have to say that I was impressed with their D-line offense's patience. So we'll see how it goes here as Freechild airs it out to Fruchter.
Fruchter is going to reel it in right before the goal line. It's not the usual 50-50 or timing play. Dylan Freechild had time to evaluate that. Smith moves it around. Oregon 2-1. Very efficient offense here from Oregon. Freechild coming underneath and hitting Fruchter, and that's not the usual type of puck we see from Oregon. That was a great read by Dylan. Sell was there, put it out in front. See Dylan here, and Fruchter is going to just easily reel this in.
Fruchter's a difficult mark for anyone. We talked about it earlier. Oregon's offense is so dynamic. There's the threat of Freechild's quickness. There's Fruchter's deep cutting ability and Campbell's distributing skills. A lot of responsibilities here for Carleton's defense to manage.
Carleton now back on offense. They held in the first possession. We'll see. Fruchter also a defensive standout, but playing the O-line right now for Oregon. Oregon utilizing that depth early on. It's going to become key later and later we go into the tournament. And about now, this is one of the last rounds in men's pool play. This is going to decide Pool D. The other pools pretty much have been decided. And we can talk a little bit later on about the contenders and what it's going to look like for the coming days. Caffrey centers to Lim. Lim. Van Can. Already touching the disc a lot, and we find Ryan. Here, this vertical stack, this dump swing, you see how the cutters do such a good job. Lim putting it out to space. Just a miscommunication perhaps with Van Can. Van Can not going all the way. Let me turn over. Oregon's going to have their first opportunity of the game.
Van Can's done a great job initiating so far. He and Galen Ryan have had a fair amount of continuation chemistry.
Oregon coming underneath. Reels it in. Defensive offense running a vertical stack. Norman, quick movement here, right up the sideline. Oregon scores. Garrett Chappell coming down with it. 3-1, Oregon breaks.
Surprising fundamental errors from the Carleton defense, just letting Oregon work it up the force side and small incremental gains. At some point, you need to start selling out and taking away the cuts to the line.
Usually Carleton coming in this game, Oregon is known for their deep ball ability and their explosiveness. And right there you saw it, like you said, you were impressed with their D-line offense and the conversion right there. That's something that we haven't seen from Oregon in years past.
Exactly, and I think with, there's a notable absence here. Aaron Hahn isn't playing with the team this year, I believe, because he was studying abroad. And I think because of the loss of bigger playmakers like that, it's kind of forced them to reevaluate and readjust how they approach those D-line conversion capabilities.
After Carleton, you have to make some adjustments on defense here. You haven't been able to slow down Oregon other than when they've made their own mistakes. So far, they've had 3 good possessions in a row.
So Dylan Freechild comes over to the D-line here to try and get a momentum-preserving break. We're going to see him pull. Big inside-out rip.
Back of the end zone for Carleton. Such an advantage for the team. Oregon a little bit slow getting down, still pinning them in the end zone. Lim, and a horizontal stack for Carleton.
Nice junk defense, a lot of switching here and fronting from the Oregon defenders, and now they transition into man.
Movement here from Carleton. Caffrey. Lim. Back to Caffrey. These two really are the anchors of this offense. Looking at for Lim, good give and go. Bid from Oregon doesn't get there. Caffrey still with the disc. Lim. Mahoney touching the disc a lot in this possession. Caffrey. Caffrey over the top looking for Ryan. Freechild there. Ryan with a left-handed grab in traffic.
A ballsy throw from Caffrey, but well executed. He saw that Galen Ryan had a step and Dylan Freechild was playing the under, perhaps baiting a tiny bit. And Freechild tried to come from the backside, but Ryan maintained his position and came down with the grab.
Dylan Freechild trying to go over the top. Looks like Freechild just lost position there, tried to go around the outside, maybe misread the disc. Oregon coming back to the line now on offense, 3-2. Oregon still with the lead in the one break advantage early on. Again, this is for Pool D, so how we got here, especially for Carleton, the 16th seed coming into the tournament. You didn't expect Carleton normally to be that low. With the regular season they've had, though, coming in, Carleton has continued to build, continued to get better. Won games over Florida, UNCW, and Rutgers. Rutgers on Universe coming in earlier today. Oregon also undefeated. Ball coming in from Carleton. They're going to need to stay in this game early and get some defensive blocks. Smith. Freechild hanging out on a wing. Fruchter. Campbell. Quick movement. Smith. Smith looking deep. Got a man.
Connor Matthews had a big game for Oregon against UNCW earlier in pool play. He stretches the field. Nice service from Smith. Nice hold for Oregon's offense.
It's great when you're on your offensive line. You have your couple main cutters. You have Fruchter there and Freechild. And then you just have a speedy guy like Matthews, which is his job is to occupy his man, go deep when the timing's right. And those are 2 easy goals for Oregon thus far.
Very well executed.
4-2, Oregon leads. We're here in Cincinnati, Ohio, Heritage Oak Park. A beautiful day. Yesterday was a little bit windy today, mostly calm. A little bit overcast, but I don't think the players mind that. The heat, not as bad.
It's only supposed to get warmer as we advance deeper into the tournament.
But a great tournament here on both sides, the women's division. Over 40 teams competing, 1,000 players. It's always a fun time to be here at College Nationals. Ian, you had the opportunity to play here a couple times, actually one time.
Yeah, back in 2011, Virginia Night Train traveled to Boulder, Colorado. It's really it's a tournament for programs that aren't perennial nationals qualifiers or contenders. It's a totally different type of experience, something that only helps you develop as a player and helps you work on your mental toughness.
Lim's going to bring it to the center. Ian, here, since you've played in this, Carleton and Oregon, both this is their second game of the day. It's something here where a lot of people think that the games, you only have 2 games a day, you can just go all out, but aren't these games on another level?
Absolutely. The mental fatigue and energy expended just kind of is a factor that isn't normally dealt with at your average run-of-the-mill regular season tournament. So these games can be more draining than they might seem to the casual observer.
Carleton moving it up the field quickly. Again, utilizing this dump swing, and Caffrey's got the lane. Great movement. Caffrey looking up the line to Lim, not available. Caffrey back to Lim on the check mark cut. Defender does not keep position. Carleton scores.
Great spacing and stack discipline by by Carleton, allowing Lim to have the space to explore that check mark cut.
See here, Lim, and now you talk about the great spacing for this vertical stack. We contrast this to a team like Colorado, where the stack was way over on the 4 side, so close. Lim doesn't have the room to make that cut unless the stack is properly spaced.
Absolutely. I mean, you compare those two, Carleton's got the advantage.
Carleton really known for their fundamentals over the years. When they talk about what they recruit, they want speed first, and from there they just work incredibly hard through the entire season to get better. It's been said about Carleton before, sacrificing early season success to build up their depth, and it works out when it comes down to crunch time more often than not.
A couple of recent national championships and semifinals trips are a decent validation of that formula, wouldn't you say, Brian?
Absolutely. Coming into this game, too, it's not just a matter, it's interesting. You have Carleton in Minnesota and Oregon way out in Eugene, but really a lot of these guys have probably played against each other because of the high school and youth scenes in Seattle and in Oregon. And we're talking, and if you're wondering as a viewer why we're talking about Seattle, Carleton has a massive Seattle high school pipeline. Year after year, they just get so many players. A big collision there. Fruchter comes up with it for Oregon. Up the line, Wilson Moses. Wilson Moses looking back. Smith. Smith up the line, checking back. Great throw to space right on the goal line. Wilson Moses. Oregon. Lots of space for them to throw. Good movement to Fruchter and the goal. 5-3, and I haven't seen Carleton been able to slow down this Oregon offense.
Absolutely not. We've seen dynamism out of the Oregon offense. We've seen them stretch it deep with Fruchter and Matthews, and right there we saw Gabe Fruchter taking a page out of Tyler DiGirolmo's playbook from last Nationals and being the big man playing small ball, hard to guard near the end zone.
When you're used to guarding a big man, you're always worried about those downfield abilities. Get to the end zone, and you realize he's a quicker guy than you're used to. You don't have the position, and now he can body you out as well. Very tough. Yeah, these two teams, though, full of high school talent. Dylan Freechild coming from Eugene in Oregon and playing in the youth scene around that area, and Justin Lim coming from Seattle. A lot of competition here, a lot of prior experience.
And it's fun to see because, like you mentioned before, a lot of these players have played against each other, so it's like another stage in their rivalry, a maturation of that competition level. So 5-3 Oregon. Freechild again taking a position on the defensive line to earn a break for Oregon.
Last time it didn't work out when they loaded it up, and really their depth has been doing well. We'll see here that this is a great opportunity for Oregon because you don't want to let Carleton hang around. You don't want to give them the chance to make those adjustments. But so far, the story has been Carleton not being able to slow down this offense. Caffrey to Lim.
Looked like it was a
poached
zipper play that got busted.
Great read by Connor Matthews coming off the front of the stack. Oregon moving it around, looking for the goal. Overthrown. Just a missed opportunity there. Strub overthrowing Chapel. Freechild on the mark.
Gonna see Van Can initiate again and Galen Ryan work off him.
Bundy on Van Cam. Matthews guarding the speedy Ryan. Caffrey, big gain up line.
Tremendous break by Justin Lim. He does wonders for this offense when he can break the mark.
Looking back for Petru. Round for Lim. Great throw out to space. Tremendous spin. Just sits out for Lim to go get it.
Staying here with Lim.
Lim. Van Can initiating once again. Petru. Olney. Carleton marching efficiently towards the end zone. Over and over again. Not very dynamic, but so well executed.
Not afraid to use the width of the field. Something that tests the marks and the legs of the defenders.
And we look right now, if we're looking at the screen and get a nice wide shot, you can see the amount of space available for the front of the stack to move. So hard to defend. Van Can has so many options, gets it back. And now utilizing off the front, Caffrey with the goal. 5-4.
Interesting, we saw Freechild marking up on Justin Lim there. Lim was able to get the mark, break the mark, get a few resets. Caffrey wins his matchup in the red zone too. Carleton's offense isn't going away.
Right now, Oregon still with the break advantage. And if you're Oregon, putting Freechild hasn't worked now on those D lines. You have it's interesting, you presumably put him on there to help play defense, but then afterwards he's such a great offensive weapon, but yet you have your regular D-line guys running the show.
Yeah, it's a good idea, and I'm sure that there will be other opportunities for him to be more involved in a break conversion, but you know, his fitness level is up to what's required to stay out there and play another O point. And to be honest with you, there have been a few O points where he's kind of just hung out on the wing and been a distraction for other players like Fruchter and Matthews to make space.
I think you're seeing a level of maturity from Dylan where he knows that in some big moments he's going to have to do it all. But normally he has a lot of talent on this team and he can get them involved, and so that way he can just hang out and then surprise everybody, not give away his hand. The wind's starting to pick up here a little bit, up to around 15 miles an hour, that pole going out of bounds. We haven't seen it affect the games here. It's getting a little bit cooler here as the shade moves in.
For the viewers at home, when you look at the sideline view, the wind is going from right to left. So Oregon is working upfield right now. Upwind, excuse me.
Slevin gets it swung around, and Carleton playing his own, trying to switch things up. Looks like a 3-3-1. So we have three people around the disc and a loose cup. Very loose right now. And this is a great call with the wind picking up. Throwers haven't gotten used to it yet. Oregon staying patient. Smith. Over the top. I think Slevin quickly moves it. Matthews. To Smith.
Carleton with a successful transition to man.
Freechild looking up the line. Now forced to look back. Inside break and a D by Carleton. First one of the game. You can take advantage of it. Hansen. Cohen calls a timeout for the defense. after making the layout saving catch. Carleton gets the D, and we'll see if they can convert on the break opportunity. This is Next Gen Network's coverage of the 2014 College Championships. Welcome back to Cincinnati, Ohio for Next Gen Network's coverage of the 2014 College Championships. Carleton coming out of a timeout. Cohen looking deep right off the bat. Johansson streaking. Great grab in the end zone. Johansson gets Carleton a break. Ties this game at 5s.
The 6'4" senior making the play that Carleton needs coming out of the timeout. We look at Cohen. Beautiful service here. Johansson wins his matchup, and we've got ourselves a tie game.
5-5, and really that's a great grab, but it all started back with the transition defense from Carleton, just trying to do something different, Ian, and force Oregon to be a little bit different.
Yeah, you notice that Carleton started the point on zone, had a successful transition to man, and really forced Dylan Freechild to go through a deeper progression of looks than he's used to.
Oregon,
and Jake Rittmeyer was able to get the block.
Now, Oregon knows how to deal with zone, but they've been playing man. They've been getting comfortable. You want to break that rhythm. And just doing that will give you a block in these situations and also give the team. Carleton hadn't gotten a turnover yet, forced from Oregon. They hadn't been, and Oregon had been in great rhythm. Gives your team a boost, especially right now when you're shorthanded with Jesse Bolton on the sideline, your captain John Reynolds on the sideline. And Johansson stepping up big with that catch and Cohen delivering it.
Rittmeyer with the big pull.
Oregon coming back. Slevin. Wilson Moses. And more zone from Carleton, 3-person cup. Looking for Fruchter.
Interesting to note that Oregon has the wind mostly at its back at this point.
Smith, and quick movement from Oregon. Starting to pick up the pace. Smith to Freechild. Freechild to an open Wilson Moses for the goal. Oregon gets it back 6-5.
Just good patience. Nice vision. Ability to find the holes, not panic and move at a frantic pace. Well executed by Oregon's offense.
Wide open throws. Oregon, immediately after getting broken, shows no sign of mental fatigue. Comes right back and provides the answer. 6-5. Late stages of the first half, and these are some critical points. The sign of a good team here is the ability to put these halves away, get into halftime with a lead, with a little bit of a momentum. And Oregon has a chance here to break, if they can put out a couple strong lines. 6-5, add another break, make it 8-6 at half. That would be crucial. On the same token, Carleton's got to be ready to go.
Getting a look here at Jesse Bolton, the star Carleton cutter, who unfortunately broke his toe and won't be able to compete for the rest of the tournament. Made some tremendous plays at regionals that made the rounds on the highlight reel videos.
Lim, center for Carleton. Van Can, great grab. Saving possession, Ryan. Caffrey, around Petru.
Nice pressure by Strub on Lim.
Caffrey out to space to Van Can for the goal. Carleton responds 6-6. Both teams here are putting on a clinic of fundamental offense. Lots of open space, cuts to open receivers, not taking many chances.
Both teams' distributors showing a lot of poise. Like you said, only identifying throws to space. Seth Van Can, the Carleton receiver, only a sophomore, but playing like he's got a lot more experience.
Well, a lot of these sophomores coming out of high school programs for both squads. It's hard to make Carleton, Oregon these days without high school talent or being freakishly athletic. for a lot of teams. Pittsburgh also in that realm. Colorado not taking any rookies this year, a senior-laden team. North Carolina getting rookies right out of high school. I was talking to Coach Mike Denardis of North Carolina here, and he was saying sometimes it's almost easier to take a freakishly athletic player and teach him how to throw rather than take a thrower who's been through the high school programs and teach him how to be athletic and do all that work.
There's a certain baseline of athletic skill and athletic potential that can be so valuable to a team. And that's something, a lot of that stuff can't necessarily be taught. You can train as much as you want, but your athletic ceiling might be so high. So it makes sense that teams go out of their way to mold athletes and make their throws serviceable, because their off-the-disc contributions are much more valuable.
Rushing to the brick mark, puts it in, Freechild. Wilson Moses was open. Freechild now going back for Slevin. Wilson Moses, Fruchter, Oregon quickly towards the end zone. Up the line for Wilson Moses for the goal. No, not in. Dylan Freechild in space. Beats it to the cone, and you're just not going to be able to handle Dylan Freechild like that.
Very, very similar movement to Jimmy Mickle when he's trying to attack a cone in tight space. There's kind of a different premise. Jimmy's just using his size to get an inside shoulder, and Freechild kind of lulls his defender to sleep with that jump step as he hesitates, jumps, and takes that jab, and as soon as that cleat plants in the ground, he's got the inside track.
Freechild makes it 7-6, has picked his spots to attack in this game. And now is the opportunity. Oregon loading up that D-line. They could use a break here to extend the lead to 8-6, and Carleton, a pivotal point for this offense to keep themselves in the game. Again, when you're shorthanded, missing your best player in Jesse Bolton, missing your captain in John Reynolds, the depth has to have stepped up, and Cohen and Johansson done a great job so far. Freechild getting set to pull.
Notice the wind picking up a tad bit here, Brian.
Oregon's come out in mostly man defense. They have poached, drifted off their men, done a little bit of the switching defense. Confused matchups for Carleton.
I don't think there's been an offensive point for Carleton that hasn't started with Seth Van Can initiating and finding Galen Ryan.
And that's point no different. Carleton works it right up the sideline, and again, Oregon, several times now they've loaded up the defensive line with their top players, and it's not led to anything.
It might be worth Oregon trying to front Van Can or Ryan. Not to say that Carleton's central handlers aren't effective huckers, because I'm sure they can, but that's been Carleton's bread and butter to get flow moving at the start of every offensive point. We've got a timeout here, and Next Gen will return with coverage momentarily.
Back in Cincinnati, Ohio for the 2014 College Championships, I'm Brian Jones here with Ian Toner. 7-7 game, Carleton College versus University of Oregon. This one's for a half. So far, offense has ruled the day, and Carleton's spacing and timing is something to be in awe of today, Ian.
Yeah, there's a lot of stack discipline, a lot of room for Seth Van Can to initiate and Galen Ryan to follow right off of him. And we saw on that last point, same string, Galen Ryan was able to throw a nice mid-range huck for an easy hold.
Carleton and Oregon, two teams that make it look easy, and Carleton, that's a little bit of a function of their system and structure. Oregon, a little bit more of a function of their athletes and explosiveness that make them so dynamic.
Of note here, we see Justin Lim coming over to the D-line for this last point before halftime. We're seeing a junk, a three-man cup.
Freechild. Fruchter now with a disc. Quick movement here that we're used to seeing from Freechild. Just doesn't stop running, throwing the disc on the fly.
Carleton stops the bleeding and transitions well.
Campbell. Rotation on the mark, doesn't work out. Smith, Wilson Moses for the goal. 8-7, Oregon takes half.
A number of Carleton defenders got caught disc watching or just going to sleep on dump defense there. They were in position to make plays and deny those strike cuts, but just didn't have the full awareness there.
Going into the second half, right now both teams' offense are in great rhythm. It's going to be about the team that can get the blocks and convert. That's going to be the difference in this game. Neither defense has stepped up. Oregon has several times tried to load up their defense. We saw Justin Lim come on there for Carleton as well in the final point before half. Both teams here are just working offensively. That's where all their studs are. Looking at the game summary so far, compared to the last game we watched, Carleton, Wisconsin, a lot of unforced turnovers. Carleton has 1 unforced turnover right now, Oregon with 2. And Oregon has forced 1 turnover. Carleton forced a couple themselves. It's at 3 turnovers each, and we're 8-7 in this game. Freechild with 2 goals and an assist. Ryan, 2 goals and an assist for Carleton. We'll be back here with second half action and Next Gen Network's coverage of the 2014 College Championships. Be back in about 10 minutes. Back in Cincinnati, Ohio for second half action of Carleton College versus University of Oregon in the men's division. This one, winner of Pool D, go on to get a bye in quarters. 8-7 at a half. Great offensive efficiency across the board. And when we're talking about Carleton, we're talking about one player that's really gotten it done. First, though, this broadcast brought to you by USA Ultimate, Patagonia, and Elemental Technologies. Thanks to our sponsors allowing us to get the streaming going on for you here today. Going back to Carleton College, there's been one player that's initiated the offense every single time for Carleton, Ian.
Yeah, Seth Van Kant has really just gotten open at will out of the back of the vert stack every single time. No one's tried to challenge him and front him or force him deep or anything like that. He's just eaten up yardage as much as he wants.
Carleton has really done well with Van Kant getting it to Galen Ryan afterwards. Looking on the other side of the coin, Oregon also displaying great offensive efficiency, but it's really been a cast of characters as opposed to one person. Freechild, Fruchter, Charlie Wilson Moses, Trevor Smith, and Connor Matthews has been there when they needed to be.
Really selfless offensive play from Oregon, showcasing their dynamism and the versatility. It's going to be important for them as they advance deeper into this tournament.
Great matchup here. 2 storied programs. Oregon been in the finals a couple times in team history. Carleton, one of the biggest, if not the biggest program in all of Ultimate, winning national championship 2009, losing in the finals in 2010, winning it again in 2011, semis in 12, semis last year in 2013, looking to make it another semis run. Hole goes out of bounds. Justin Lim will start with it in the center. And we'll see if there's an adjustment on Seth Van Kant. We have Chris Strub on the matchup. Doesn't look like.
Be interested to see if the other defender flashes out into the lane in the middle of his other undercut, and it doesn't look like it.
And Cam is the break side, and Ryan instead.
Well-designed play. We saw Van Kant come under on the break side and then streak deep off of Galen's undercut.
And Carleton, just like that, is near the end zone. Up the line for Caffrey. Grabs it in front of Smith. 8-8. And you can see some of the frustration already on Oregon. They've stacked this D-line now 4 times, put Dylan Freechild out there, and they have not been able to come up with a D or convert.
Then Caffrey brings it in for the cut score.
So Freechild heads back out. Sorry, as you get a look there at Caffrey's nice upline grab. Freechild's going to head back out on offense, accompanied by Fruchter, Wilson Moses, Ian Campbell, Connor Matthews, Trevor Smith.
Oregon fails to adjust immediately out of half. We'll see if Carleton does anything. They were able to get a couple of breaks back to tie this game, to get this game back on serve. We're going to have to see if this D-line is going to do anything different. Oregon is very dynamic, a lot of athletes. It may be hard to slow them down completely. Carleton going with a 3-man cup earlier in the game.
The transition out of that three-man cup was what really stifled Oregon, surprisingly.
I think I would like to see them do it a little bit earlier. Right now, Oregon still was able to work it down to the end zone. Have to work it a few yards, and when you have Dylan Freechild, one of the most dangerous players in a short space, it may not work out in your favor. Out of bounds hold. Oregon going the other way. Freechild in isolation. Pretends to take off. Gets it
Blown
underneath.
coverage. There was a streaking Oregon receiver, Charlie Wilson-Moses, who puts it up. Fruchter's there.
Fruchter with the grab in traffic. And that's a goal for Oregon. 9-8. And that's more of the Oregon we're used to seeing. After a great efficient offense, Charlie Wilson-Moses just said, Fruchter's got it.
Before Wilson-Moses put it up, there was a complete defensive breakdown on Carleton's part, leaving Wilson-Moses wide open, who made a deep cut initially, but Smith wasn't able to get him the disc, so he came in for the under and ended up putting it up to Fruchter for this great grab.
Traditionally, we've seen Oregon take chances like that. It's a great opportunity with Fruchter going deep. Big-bodied Fruchter able to box out.
We're going to get another look here at this play developing, and you'll see that Wilson-Moses had no one within 10 yards of him before he started to come back in under. And then he puts up the trust throw that Fruchter rips down.
6'4", Gabe Fruchter, senior, 22 years of age, playing big moments here for Oregon. Oregon back on defense, and Freechild back on the field again.
Be interesting to see if we see that junk defense from Oregon that we saw earlier, with 3 men fronting the undercuts and 1 man defending the deep space. Tougher to execute against a vertical stack.
And this is what the defensive points were missing. A big pull from Freechild gives a chance to get down. Freechild on limb. Van Can once again getting the under, finding Ryan. Lee Engel stretching it deep. Back to limb. McCaffrey. McCaffrey looking underneath for Ryan. Ryan lays out for it. Back to Caffrey, limb. Freechild playing off, trying to stop the break lane. Caffrey inside. Van Can to the end zone for the score. Ryan, Van Can and Ryan, just great connection, great continuation in timing each time.
They really know when it's going to be their turn to help their teammate out. As soon as Van Can makes the grab, Ryan knows to make the cut to the cone. Lots of great chemistry helping this short-handed Carleton offense.
9-9, no breaks in the second half. Both offenses working in rhythm and efficiently. At this point in time, you haven't been able to stop either offense. Haven't been able to stop either team on offense. Do something different to disrupt it. Throw a zone. Carleton's been doing that a little bit. Oregon threw a junk defense that got him a turn right away. I don't know what this...
You got to wonder if Coach Jay Janin is just waiting for the right moment in the second half to pull something out of his sleeve and have that be the game changer late in the game.
If you go 2 to 3 points in a row and you're not getting turnovers, it's time to change things up.
Can't argue with that.
Oregon, though, back here on offense. Ian Campbell picking up. Horizontal stack. Fruchter and Freechild in the middle, and a zone coming together. Carleton disguising the look. Over the top for Fruchter. Wilson-Moses, too short. Unforced error. And the patience we saw from Oregon in the first half, gone a little bit away. Wilson-Moses has the trigger finger. Slevin actually with the turnover. Too far. Fruchter's going to chase this down, gets it back for Oregon. Slevin. Call on the play, injury. Freechild runs it down, but a cramp on the field.
It's like Simon Johansson.
Oregon can't believe it. Had an open cutter downfield.
Glad it's not worse than a cramp, because as soon as he landed, he went down. Kind of injury you normally associate with a hamstring strain or pull or something like that, as we get another look here. So Gabe Fruchter will start with the disc. We saw Duncan Sahlstrom come in for the injured Johansson. Jack Slevin's going to be wide open.
Slevin up for Freechild, going deep. Open in the end zone, 10-9. Neither offense showing signs of slowing down.
Interesting to note that Carleton's zone got another turn there. You know, a trigger that didn't necessarily need to be pulled, or a trigger that could have been executed slightly better, but Carleton's got to be happy with the fact that they had a chance.
Unforced errors for Oregon have been the issue in the past. Liking the patience up to this point. Carleton's offense is rolling. Now it's about the defense for Oregon. They have the capability, they have the athleticism, but they haven't been able to slow down the execution of Cut's offense. 10-9, game to 15 here. Winner goes on to win Pool D. University of Oregon versus Carleton College. I'm Brian Jones, here with Ian Toner. Thank you for joining us today. Wind picking up just a little bit, not affecting throws too bad. Sun's starting to come back out. Beautiful sight here in Heritage Oak Park.
Brian Penner rips the outside in pull.
Offside on the pull.
Offside. Call is going to be a warning. That's their first. After a second offside, there will be a yardage penalty. Right now we're going to re-pull. You just get the sense in the middle of these games, when everything's going smooth, there's going to be a couple of key moments coming up that's going to change the game. Some adjustment. So far, it's just been back and forth. They go offense after offense of possession, working out for both squads.
Let's go, Eric! Come on, Eric!
Caffrey. Lim in the center. Van Can yet again.
Go, Eric, go!
Van Can looking for Galen Ryan. Wide open. Can't stop the dynamic duo. Lim to Van Can to Ryan again and again. 10-10.
I'm telling Oregon has to do something to stop Seth Van Can and Galen Ryan from catching the first two passes. Front them with some deep help. Run a kind of junk against their vertical stack. When they're able to initiate and get those cuts, Carleton's offense is just off to the races, running smoothly.
Yeah, it's time for Oregon to change things up and adjust. At this point in time, nothing's working. You might as well go with a zone or anything to just change Oregon or change Carleton's play style. Both offenses rolling. A couple of unforced turnovers. So far, a lot of wide open catches.
Rittmeyer with another pull. He's already sent two out of bounds, but this one lands in the end zone.
Campbell, Slevin. Looking for Fruchter. Rittmeyer really playing off the mark, forcing Oregon to move backwards at first. Looking deep for Matthews. Throw is short, and Matthews hits him in the chest. An awkward catch. It needs to be made. Another unforced error.
Lewis Cohen going back to pick up the disc.
Carleton going the other way. Cohen. Sidelines.
Great patience from Cohen, looking off the huck and the adaptive mark to find the easy reset, but
Hansen pushing it too far for Cohen. Turnover for Carleton. The Oregon offense gets it back. 10-10. Campbell. Inside break. Wilson Moses. No movement here from Oregon. Free child. Only going at it. Wilson Moses lofting one backwards.
Let's go, John.
Carleton defense playing very soft.
You gotta move.
Wilson Moses looking for the break. Pulls his hamstring. Either a cramp or a pull.
Brian, correct me if I'm...
This was
tremendous block from Tyler Mahoney, but the observers are going to confer. I don't think Oregon believed the disc was checked back in after Wilson Moses' injury stoppage.
Free child, you can hear him through the camera here. We both stop play, he's saying. When both teams agree to stop play and start talking, usually that's a time when you get together and play has been stopped. That was one of a weird restart.
That being said, Moses was the one who pulled the trigger and threw it to Freechild. So I'm not sure if a particular violation was called. And
I'm as confused as you.
Wilson Moses, again, because he called the injury and there was no contact, had to leave the field of play. We're seeing Brian Penner come in for him, and I believe it's going to be Carleton's disc. Brian, you were talking earlier about one of those decisive turning points. This could very well be one of them.
Both teams just looking for an opportunity to convert on a break. And even when there's been those opportunities, teams have not been able to put it in. The offenses are just loaded right now.
We saw glimmers of it with Carleton in the first half.
Apparently it's Cott's disc.
Great block by Mahoney, and he's going to have a step to take off if he wants to with Dylan Freechild in pursuit. And Carleton smartly subs Justin Lim in to anchor the offense on the turn and try and get the break.
Big possession for both squads. Looking back for Lim. This one's going to hang. Foul called on the play.
We do have a foul call on the throw.
Johansson, who's back in after his hamstring injury, calling a foul. And the observer rules that it is a, the observer upholds the foul call. Gabe Fruchter was incredulous, believing he got all disc.
That's close, but 99% of the time, that's going to be a foul on the mark. Looking back, Fruchter gets all of this one. Going deep, Freechild holsters it. Smith. Not much movement. Carleton smartly dropping. Being able to cover. Slevin to Campbell on the goal line. Quick dish, Freechild goal, 11-10.
Interesting the way Oregon is able to salvage this point. At one moment, they're completely disheartened after a turnover, on behalf of poor miscommunication. And the next moment, Gabe Fruchter's rising to the occasion and getting the disc back with a foot block.
I'm surprised that we haven't seen Fruchter play a defensive point yet. At the 6'4" size, just appears to be such a game changer for this Eagle squad.
He would be a tremendous matchup for Seth Van Can or Galen Ryan. He could afford to front one of those two players and has the athleticism to catch up if any of the hucks that might go up to them hang.
We'll see if Oregon can make any adjustments. Oregon going the other way now on defense, looking to adjust 11-10. Sidelines starting to build up intensity here late in this game. 11-10. Reminds me of a game back in 2010 Nationals with this Ego team. UCSD Air Squids, Oregon. No breaks in the game. Both offenses going the distance, 17-16. UCSD breaking in the last point. It may just take one here in the second half, Ian. Carleton picking up, not Lim this time, Caffrey. For one of the first times they have to go back to Lim. Lim still finding Van Can. Van Can has just been the story of this game, getting open all over the place. Petru keeps it in. Caffrey and Oregon is bidding all over the place. Up the line. Petru. Caffrey. Looking for Lim. Now back. Smothering defense here from Oregon. Pick called on the play.
This is the defense that Oregon needs to generate a break. Keying in on the reset movements and making the front of the stack movement difficult as well.
Out to space.
And as soon as I say that, Brian Penner gets caught unaware, looking at his man, lets him go to the cone, and Lim makes him pay with an important grab for the hold that ties the game at 11.
11-11. Oregon comes out with a couple of breaks, leads 5-3 at one point. Carleton gets it back, gets the game back to on serve. 8-7 Oregon at half, now 11-11. This game is for decides Pool D, who's going to move on to quarterfinals, who's going to get that bye. Both teams undefeated coming into this game.
You got to lay it all on the line for these last however many points because that bye is valuable.
No team since we moved to the 20-team format since 2009 has made pre-quarters and then advanced to semifinals. There's been a couple of close calls. We saw almost one last year. UCF almost losing to Dartmouth, holding on. UCF the pool winner. Back in 2009, the first format event, Pittsburgh was up 14-13 on the eventual champions, Carleton. Carleton winning that game 16-14. Oregon centers. And a two-person just forcing it to the sideline, turning into a larger cup. A trap zone. Over the top. Smith nonchalantly catches it with a man coming in. Calls the foul.
Smith's going to have a wide open swing to the break side here to Slevin. And now Carleton looked like they were going to force both sidelines, but they're still maintaining the flick force.
Freechild breaks it to Matthews. Wilson Moses. Looking back for Smith. Freechild, inside break, on the goal line. Looking for any option. Now forced to go back. Out to space. Smith. Freechild. Freechild up the line, 12-11. Oregon leads.
As soon as Freechild threw that reset backward, you had to know he was going to be attacking that upline space. If I'm Simon Johansson, I'm doing everything I can to readjust my body positioning and get out in front of that lane that Freechild's trying to attack. But Freechild makes the most of his defender's lack of positioning and attacks for the goal.
So tough after those forehand throws to guard Freechild, that quick first step. You've already lost before you even started. 12-11 Oregon. Offense is rolling here in this game. Both teams in a rhythm. Carleton comes out with a trap zone. It's a different look. Not successful, but at least they're doing something different.
See if we can say the same for Oregon's defense here.
Oregon ramped up the defensive intensity on man defense last time around. Penner, though, unfortunately falling asleep, having Lim to the open side. Lim, a block. Penner
Penner with the hand block.
looking back. Bundy. Penner to the goal. That's the break. Chris Strub with the goal.
He finds Chris.
Oregon up 13-11.
Score.
And we talked about those game-changing moments. Not sure who got the block here, but for Oregon, nonetheless, it's a break.
Yeah, Brian Penner did a great job covering the pull, came down. He read, that's a great adaptive mark. He read that Lim was going to try and break the mark, took a lunge step out, got a paw on it. Chris Strub reels in the goal at the fourth side cone, and Ego has its crucial break, leading 13-11.
Penner gets it done, and that's a D-line out there without the offensive studs for Oregon. You can see their depth coming through when it matters most. Now we see Oregon load up a little bit with Dylan Freechild, 13-11. Carleton needs the hold here.
This is the nail in the coffin line right here.
Oregon hoping to put this game away. Put Pool D in their pocket and move on to quarters.
Goal for Ego.
Freechild. His last pull gave the defense a nice field to work with, forcing Carleton to work from their own end zone.
Penner doing a great job covering the pull again, and he'll match up on Lim.
Ryan coming
Nice.
under.
Nice job stopping Van Can from getting the first touch there.
Faking deep. The angle gets it off. Olney. Van Can. Van Can up the line for Caffrey. For the goal, Carleton responds. Not done yet, 13-12.
A great start to the point by Oregon's defense, but Carleton trusted in its system, went through its progression of cutters, and eventually Ben Caffrey just burned Connor Matthews up the line. We've seen Caffrey attacking that upline space repeatedly today, Brian.
Not sure that Connor Matthews is the player you want on a handler. Younger, athletic player, positioning so key to guarding handlers. Matthews, even though he has a speed, Caffrey just takes the right line. Very difficult to guard.
So we're taking a look at Carleton's defensive unit here, and we see Justin Lim coming over again.
This would be a great time for Carleton to take a timeout and gear up for this point, but Phil Bowens decided, I want to go now. Both teams have been rolling. Oregon getting the latest break of the game. Carleton needs to respond. Rittmeyer with the pull. Lim rushing down, and this is where Jesse Bolton is sorely missed in these moments. Freechild initiates. Fruchter.
Johansson had no choice but to back him there.
Matthews. Matthews fakes deep. Over the top. Slevin around to Smith. Surveying the field. Fakes deep. Losing yards, Carleton. Good positioning, Campbell.
A lot of lunging on the marks from Carleton.
Freechild. A lot of open space in the middle of the field for Oregon to work with here. Smith to the
Great.
goal. Finding Fruchter. Spikes to this. Goal for Oregon. 14-12. 1 point away from victory.
You know, you like to talk about the hockey assist, the second pass before the real assist. And Dylan Freechild had great vision and touch on his space trust throw to Trevor Smith. Just floats it in there perfectly. And Smith's able to find Fruchter, who just attacks the cone with no one on him. Johansson was too far behind.
It can become difficult again for Johansson, who's in there to guard Fruchter deep. to not have the defensive ability to guard him in small spaces. Fruchter takes advantage. Johansson's too far off. Fruchter just sneaks right in there.
At a certain point when you're Johansson, I mean, I understand he probably had a lot of considerations in how he was playing Fruchter in that space. But at a certain point when you've got a deep threat and the field's getting shorter as your opponent moves up, you got to trust the back line to act as an extra defender with you. You know, hey, he might be a good deep threat, but they're getting closer to the end zone, and I'm going to front him and dare the offense to throw a perfect throw that doesn't go out the back of the end zone.
Freechild not on the field. Penner holds it for Oregon. Centering the limb. Coming down slow, directing traffic now, Van Can.
A great junk and switching defense from Oregon that stops Van Can from getting the first touch.
Now Oregon needs to recover. They almost do. Olney. Watkins on the ground. Trips it only a little bit. 14-12, a must-score point for Carleton. Violation called on the play. Only inside break. Petru. Back for Caffrey. Great move up the line. Caffrey. Oregon doing a lot of face guarding, and Lim gets separation for the goal. 14-13. Game to 15 here. Win. And we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back here. Next Gen Networks coverage of 2014 College Championships. Back in time just for the poll here. 14-13. Carleton has to come down here with their best defensive line on the field. They have to score, keep this game alive. 14-13. Justin Lim on the field. Big loss here is Jesse Bolton.
Definitely a playmaker who could patrol the deep space.
Fruchter for Pool D. Oregon has it in their hands. Freechild almost lets it hit the ground. Travel called on the play.
Freechild's incredulous. Can't blame him.
Freechild. Freechild looking around, no around mark. Moving backwards. Slevin. Campbell.
Nice job using the width of the field by Oregon.
Freechild. Open space. Matthews, such a speedy cutter. Freechild, this is his domain. Up the line for the score and the win. Oregon takes the game 15-13 over Carleton. Great battle from both squads. But in the end, you just cannot contain Dylan Freechild near the end zone.
And Troutman was step for step with him, but he was face guarding and just didn't know that the throw went up. A nice outside in throw that maybe goes out of bounds for a second and comes back in. Dylan Freechild, always one to please the camera.
Oregon takes this game 15-13, that pivotal moment. Brian Penner comes up large with that hand block. As you said, Ian, just lunging out there. Great read. And taking stats of the game here, looking at the unforced turnovers. Oregon with 4 unforced turns over the game, Carleton with 2. Oregon stepped up on defense, forcing 5 turnovers against Carleton. But really, player of the game, Dylan Freechild. 4 goals in the second half, taking over control, especially near the end zone. Van Can on the other side. Oregon finally stopped him when they needed to at the end, getting that one block. Where do you see, Ian, here, Oregon as a contender for the rest of this tournament?
I think Oregon is a top 2, top 3 contender with Pitt and Colorado. Perhaps a step above Colorado. I like their willingness to use the width of the field more, the dynamism of their offense. Brian, what do you think?
We're seeing a different Oregon team than I've seen in years past. In past years when they've come in with a #1 seed, I've seen a lot of timing plays. Go ahead, get the in-cut, jacket deep immediately. Here, they're surveying the field every time, with the exception of a couple points in a row. One to Fruchter where they got it off, and the other one where they just moved a little bit too quickly. You see poise. You see command out of this Oregon team.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Poise was what I was going to use, and adaptability and maturity, willing to take the looks that the defense is giving them.
And for Carleton here, their tournament certainly isn't done. It's a hard road. Nobody's ever made the semis through the pre-quarter round, but it's great to see Carleton after this season and the events that passed, to see them go 3-1 on days 1 and 2. They're going to make pre-quarters. They're going to make the championship bracket. Great job for the Carleton Ultimate program. But thanks for joining us today. For Ian Toner, I'm Brian Jones. We have our women's matchup next, UBC versus Carleton Syzygy. Next round, and we'll have women's pre-quarters later on today. This is Next Gen Network's coverage of the 2014 College Championships.